Dark Satellite Media.
How's it going, Barney?
It's fun. Things are good.
Yeah, thank you for doing it. I'm here. This is Red River Podcast. I'm here with my two friends, Tim and Chris.
Hi, Barney.
Hey, Barney, how you doing?
Nice to speak with you.
Hey, Tim and Chris.
So yeah, let's have this discussion. Just really wanted to have a chat with you. I know Tim is friends with your cousin Shari, and she told us this tidbit, and we were like very excited to talk to you. Definitely, we're huge Friday the 13th fans, and the fact that Friday is Friday the 13th, it just seemed like the best time to do it.
Well, speaking commercially, every Friday the 13th, they play a lot of Friday the 13th movies, and I always wind up with a little bigger check in my quarterly residuals. So I enjoy Friday the 13th.
Absolutely. But yeah, so, you know, we kind of just wanted to get a little bit background on basically your life. You know, I know that somewhere along the way you developed a friendship with director Joe Zito. But can you get us to before you met him and what made you want to become a writer?
Well, like everybody else, I started out as a child. I had no idea what I wanted to do, including, I don't know, halfway through college. A writer always seemed to me a romantic thing to do, specifically a journalist. But I had no idea about anything. When I graduated college, a couple of cousins wanted to give me a job. One had a paint business, and the other one was in show business. Oh. So I went with the show business
Absolutely.
guy.
Good move.
I would have went paint, but a good choice.
Well, actually, it was very forward thinking because the paint job paid more. But I went to and he introduced me to the head of advertising and publicity at 20th in New York, and I got the job, and I wound up writing ads for movies, creating posters, and not as an artist, as a figure generator with stick figures. I would show what the poster ought to look like, and then I'd bring in an artist, and the artist would do it.
Did you write like the taglines and stuff for those?
Yeah, I did. Well, I did the mash fingers, you know, the peace sign. With
sure,
the
yeah.
Woman's
that's so cool.
Yeah.
I did a lot. I did several. Working for 20th, they allowed me to freelance quite a bit. So there are a lot of books, you know, 50 greatest horror movie posters of all time. I have 3 or 4 in there.
Oh wow!
5 million years to Earth and stuff like that. So then I got a little bored with that because I won a couple of awards, and it seemed like if I was going to be a smart guy, it seemed like doing ad posters for movies was kind of a waste of time. So you might think I'd go to my second idea, which is to be a journalist, which is exactly what I did.
Oh, okay.
I didn't go from writing movie advertisements to writing movies, but I became a journalist. I worked for the New York Times and Esquire, parenting, just a general runaround journalist. I did that for, 10 years or so. And then somebody wanted to make a TV movie off of one of my articles. And it turned out to be not a TV movie. It turned out to be a CBS after-school special called The Year of the Gentle Tiger, which was about two kids who meet in a dojo, and one Asian, one a Caucasical. And I'll spell that for you if you need it.
Yeah, I already spelled it out. No problem.
Okay, good for you. And then have to fight against each other in the Junior Olympics. And then CBS hired me to do an after-school special mini-series, which was a half hour a day for I think 4 days. And I think Joe Zito, got to read it. I don't know whether they hired him to do it, but I believe that they canceled the after school miniseries just before deciding whether or not to produce it. And Zito contacted me about doing a horror movie. He said because he loved the kids that I drew, he said it was so realistic. And he screwed me on the deal. I mean, I love Joe, but he didn't tell me what it was. He just said it's a horror movie. You have to kill a lot of kids. So I signed the deal, and then he told me what it was, and so I could have charged at least double. But it was the fourth movie, the final chapter. So there had been three before. I hadn't seen any of the three because I'm just not a horror fan.
Okay.
But at that time, I was living on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, and on the Upper East Side, there was a theater that was showing a triple feature. Guess what? Friday the 13th, Friday the 13th Part 2, and Friday the 13th Part 3.
Man,
I hailed
good times.
I hailed a cab, took it across Central Park, went to the theater on 86th Street and Lexington Avenue, and then I watched the three, and I hailed a cab, came back. Halfway through Central Park, it's dark out now, I say to the driver, look, when you get to Fifth Avenue, which is the boundary of Central Park on the west. Wait a minute, I got this all backwards. When you get to Central Park West, don't make a U-turn, come back. I got to go see these movies again because I realized that in all the hits, all of the stabbings and brutalizations, I had closed my eyes, and I needed to go back and see what they looked like. So I went back and saw the three again, and then I called up Zito and said, "Okay, I'm ready."
So you didn't go back and watch them again and say, shit, I should have stuck the painting?
Yeah, I actually got my eyes open. And they weren't as bad as I thought. But to answer your question, I sort of always wanted to be a quote-unquote man of letters. I just didn't know what to do with it. And I sort of meandered my way from advertising to journalism to getting this gig to write Friday the 13th, the final chapter, which of course changed everything. And I've been a movie writer, screenwriter, television guy ever since.
So you had like no real relationship with horror up to that point, and you figure, so this was probably like 83 or 82. No, actually, it had to be 83 because Part 3 was out. I was going to say, in the slasher genre was such a big deal by that point. So I guess it's just something that never connected with you.
I didn't even know what a slasher genre was. When I was a little kid, I used to read Tales from the Crypt.
Yes, yeah, awesome.
In that Norman Rockwell cliche, under the covers with a flashlight.
Yeah.
And it often gave me nightmares. And when Creature from the Black Lagoon came out, I was right in the middle of my Tales from the Crypt days, and I went to see it with a bunch of friends. Mom dropped us off. And it was a really hot day. It was the first movie I'd ever seen in 3D. And earlier that morning, I had been beamed in a baseball game. So the minute Riku Browning came swimming at you out of the depths with his gills and whatnot, I threw up.
Oh, wow.
Oh, damn.
Wow, okay.
That's crazy. And that sort of, you then had a Pavlovian reaction to every horror movie since?
Yeah. So that I kind of shied away from horror.
So what movies were you watching? Like what was inspiring you? At that time.
I like cowboy movies. I like war movies. One of the movies are my favorites. War movies, and I actually liked movies that I was ashamed to tell people I liked. I liked Gidget. I saw Gidget 3 or 4 times.
That's funny. My wife actually forced me to watch Gidget. I had never seen it, and it's one of her favorite movies. And so,
it's really a wonderful movie. It's one of the best coming-of-age movies ever. I suppose it's even better if you're a woman watching it. But I like movies like that. I like musicals. And usually I had to lie to my friends who always wanted to watch John Wayne, although I like John Wayne too.
So moving forward, you're sent with this task to write this screenplay. And how did you prep for something like this? I mean, aside from watching the movies, did you have like an idea of what you wanted to do from the beginning?
No, I went back. I went back to my Tales from the Crypt days.
Okay.
And tried to remember all the things that really scared me, and tried to turn them this way and that way until they fit. They gave me a story. They said, "This is what we want to do." So I had the bare bones of the story that I needed to massage this way and that way to make it fit what I thought I could do. And I just plunged right in, which is what I've always done. I was a generalist as a ad man. I did everything, and I was a generalist as a newspaper writer. I did everything. I've never had a specialty, and so in the showbiz career, like I said, I started out on after school specials. And then I think before I did Friday the 13th. It was not my first rodeo. I did a movie for the guy who directed the after school special. The guy who directed After School Special was doing a movie that turned out to be the French Quarter with Bruce Davis and not Rhonda Fleming, Virginia Mayo. Sort of ended Virginia Mayo's career, and several other people. And he asked me to write that because he liked the writing of the After School Special. So I wrote that, and then Leonard Maltin gave it 3 stars and called it an undiscovered drive-in classic. So bless his heart.
Wow, that's great.
Love
the After School miniseries was interesting. It was called The Inside Out Clown, and it was about a fat kid who goes to clown school because he's funny. And what he learns is you have to work it. Yeah, you have to work at being funny because it's not just fat doesn't get you where you want to go. So I wound up being sent to the Sarasota Sailor Circus, which is a small circus in Orlando, where they train circus people, particularly clowns. So in 2 weeks, I learned to walk a wire. It was really a lot of fun. Zito at the time, I haven't seen Joe in a long time, but at the time he was a bit fat, and he found the kids in the script to be heartbreaking for him. So what he told me was, okay, we're going to write this horror movie. By then I knew it was Friday the 13th, and I said, and don't think up any crazy new ways to kill them. Just make real kids like you did in that script and in the Year of the Gentle Tiger. And then whatever we do to them will be shocking. And he was so correct, because I read article after article about how, I'm going to put a rose on my nose here, so forgive me, how the final chapter stands out. And it stands out. I watched it again about 5 years ago. It stands out because the kids are relatively real.
Yes.
And it's not that they get punished for screwing. They get punished because the world is random.
Yeah.
And horror will come to anybody.
That's so true.
Yeah, and I like that even in the group of friends, none of them stand out as like
the cool one.
Yeah, like a cool archetype. They're all sort of misfits and outcasts a little bit in their own way, even though they've got this sort of clan of friends that are together. And it does make you care a little bit more about them because they're not just kind of paper doll type characters.
Right.
Probably the best written one out of the first 4 for sure.
Oh, of course.
As far as like the cast, and even like the cast, when you think of the cast, like everyone in there, Crispin Glover and Corey Feldman. What's the girl in the boat?
Oh, Judy Aronson.
Yeah. I mean, they all had like pretty damn good careers after.
So was there, because of, because we've kind of all seen the documentary and stuff like that, but was there clearly a desire to kind of go out with a bang and pump money into this in terms of cast and production value, because they kind of felt like, hey, the genre may be getting tired, or we're kind of tired of doing this, and we really want to celebrate this character and kind of like leave it all out there?
I only know what I've been told. I was told at some point during this period that they were out of money. This was really the final chapter, and the most important thing I could do would be to find a way to kill Jason that looked like they really killed him, so that we could end it. I thought about this for a while, and I thought, Jason is a non-human figure.
Sure.
He's sort of halfway between a ghost and a crazy man. And I said, the only way you're going to kill him is to get that mask off him, turn him into a person. Mm-hmm. And we did. We flipped the mask off him in the climax, and then and then Corey gave him the business.
Yeah.
And when the mask comes off, you see, it's almost like years later and much bigger, the Luke, I am your father thing. Once the mask comes off, it's a person. A person can be killed.
Yeah.
It's like the mask is like Samson with the mask is
there. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. And then you get like Tom Savini, who is the master, who obviously worked with Joe Zito on The Prowler as well. But just that machete slide, like from the time I watched, I'm 42 now, and I think I've seen the movie 100 times. And the first time I was probably like, I don't know, 6 or something. Yeah. It had to be.
I watched The Prowler too, to do prep for this, to get a sense of Joe. It is a pretty good movie, and Joe made me go see The Boogans, which I really liked. It's still one of my favorite horror movies.
Which one?
The Boogans.
Oh, The Boogans. I've never seen it. Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I've actually never seen that one.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And another thing too, in retrospect, because here's a franchise that has so many entries, especially by now. What does it feel like to have basically the one that's considered the best? People love 4 and 6 the best.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you a couple of things about that. First of all, being told that something you did is great never gets old. Ever. Never gets old. So, I love all these things. When I see them, I clip them. I don't do this anymore, but I used to go to all of the Friday parties, reunion parties, after parties.
That sounds like fun.
Fridays. And it was great to hear all this stuff. And one of the things I learned at the after parties is when you meet somebody who did 1, 2, and 3, you meet them who did say 5, 6, and 7. I remember Danny Steinman who did 5. They know everything there is to know about all of the Friday movies up until theirs, and nothing about the Friday movies after theirs, because they all did their prep, and then that was it. Once the philosopher, twice the pervert. So, one of my fondest moments in horror, because I'm not really a horror guy. I go to horror parties because the girls keep inviting me.
Yeah,
but
that's a good reason.
Not really a horror guy, but I was at one of these places where people come in and you sign their memorabilia and stuff like that. And some of these things you get paid. I would never want to get paid for that, so I never did. And all of a sudden, in the middle of this signing frenzy, a guy and his girl come in with a full-size Subway one-sheet poster of Killer Party, which is a movie I did that nobody knows anything about. But it was so warm to know that somebody loved this other thing that kind of flew under the radar all these years. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed. I mean, the horror genre now has exploded at all budget levels, and people from time to time come to me and say, "Dave, why don't you do another horror movie?" And I tell them something that Joe Zito told me. He said, "You should never do another horror movie unless you absolutely have to. Nothing against horror, but you have an IOU now that you can cash anytime you need it." So I'm still waiting to cash that IOU and do another horror movie.
What if they asked you to make Jason the musical?
Okay.
A Western.
That never happened. I'll tell you a couple of things about that. Corey Feldman and I have talked a lot about spinning off Tommy Jarvis.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is Tommy Jarvis like now that he's 35 years old? I said, Corey, first of all, if we sell that, you're not going to play it. They're going to let Ryan Reynolds play it. And he laughed. But we've never actually gotten close for a lot of reasons. Some having to do with the way things worked out for Corey. Some having to do with the way things worked out in the subsequent rebirth of Friday with bigger Hollywood people. But I did spend several lunches talking about a musical with George Romero called Night of the Living Dead, All Singing, All Dancing, All Dead.
Oh my goodness!
Which got picked up by the late Tony Adams, who was at the time producing the Spider-Man on Broadway, and we did a lot of work on it. And then Tony died and took All Singing, All Dancing, All Dead with him. So the idea to do a horror musical is not a terrible idea. The guy who I'm going to forget now. The guy who was the voice, all the voices of the Archies. Remember the Archies, Sugar and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Came to me and said, "Let's do a horror movie." So for a while we were working on something called Club Z, which was a zombie musical. But these things come and go in Hollywood. It's like the Witches of Oz. They live, they die, they fly away.
There's actually,
but a horror musical is a great idea.
There's actually a horror musical that I'm thinking of by Lloyd Kaufman from Troma, and it's called Poultrygeist, and I don't know, I love it. It's definitely a Troma movie, which means it's completely batshit crazy. But were you going to say something?
Didn't they make a musical out of Toxie? What was the thing with the Toxic Killer?
Toxic Avenger. I think they made definitely a cartoon.
They made a musical. Yeah,
that's funny.
Also, Anna and the Apocalypse was a zombie. That's right. A zombie musical.
That's on Hulu.
Yep.
I'm floored though that you
actually talked about.
What was that?
Yeah. I've never been talked to about a Jason musical. I don't think people would come to me, despite my. There's so many new people doing this stuff.
Here's another idea. With Cobra Kai being such a big thing, are you familiar with that show?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think that's a cool idea. So like you could take a movie like Friday the 13th and you could do like a 10 series Netflix thing around Tommy Jarvis.
Yeah.
And what he's doing now.
Retcon it, completely ignore the subsequent films.
Yeah.
I mean, bring it to Shudder. That's
Shudder too, yeah.
But I think there's all sorts of legal stuff around the Friday franchise right now. Like they can't even get another movie made. So
you're right, yeah. But
unfortunately,
well, these days, what's happening with the streamers. My other big horror cred is Forever Night. I did a movie called Nick Knight, Vampire Detective, turned into a series that ran 70 episodes on the USA Network. With originally Rick Springfield, the rocker, played him, but when it went from movie to series, it was Grant Wynn Davies.
Yes.
And what happens now is when I put the pitch, as a matter of fact, the call after this is a call, sort of the start of pre-production on a project I sold about a month ago. I go to Netflix or Amazon or Hulu, and they say, "Well, what we really want is a series, but not like."
Oh, okay. Check.
Sorry, we lost you.
But I don't know if that was you or me, but you're on. Where did you lose me?
So, you were talking about the call that you were going to get.
Yeah, and you were saying that Netflix and the other streamers, they kind of have like a certain sense
serial.
of
So when I go in there with a script, I'll write scripts from time to time. When you go in there with a screenplay, they say, and the ones that I've brought in, include thrillers. They say, well, can you take Act 1 and start your series with that, and then Act 3 and end your series with that, and then give me 5 acts between the two, because screenplays are essentially serials when you stretch them out. So the way to do Tommy Jarvis as a feature is really you write a pilot script, but you conceive of it as a feature with the beginning, middle, and end, and then stretch it out to 6, 8, 10, or 12 episodes, whatever it is the streamer wants. Like I said, we talked to Corey. We've actually never talked about it as a series. We always talked about it as a movie. And I talked to Corey's manager, Scott Carlson, but we haven't done it in a couple of years. You know, maybe you've inspired me. Maybe I'll ring him up again and say, hey, what about this?
Yeah, just bring up Cobra Kai and Tommy Jarvis and I don't know, Hulu, Shudder, doesn't matter.
But there's millions of fans that would love to see something like that. You know,
100%.
There's definitely a market for it.
Yep.
And the way streaming services are now, I mean, it's just so. I mean, what do you think of like all these streaming services and these like avenues where you can get your work out if need be?
I watch them. I have relationships at some, but not all of them. I watch them. I enjoy them. I enjoy the serialized version of it. I mean, it's one thing to go to a movie or a show and be mesmerized for 2 hours, but then you're left wanting more. So all of a sudden now you've got 12 episodes more. You know, so I like them and I watch them, and I think it's the future.
Sure.
For sure. Yeah, because I mean, it's amazing. Now when people gather, people used to bring up movies, and to some extent, sometimes they do, but it's always like, what are you watching?
Yeah,
you know, it's always what are you watching, because it's, like you said, you could definitely stretch out that story. I had a question, just back to Friday the 13th 4. Like, do you remember what it was like to watch that first screening after the movie was made?
Ask me that question again, because I want to make a point about what we were talking about before.
Oh, sure.
But well before COVID, I mean, like 10 years ago, and before even before even the streamers, it occurred to me, sitting on my couch watching TV with my beautiful wife beside me and a bowl of popcorn in front of me, it occurred to me that if you were to materialize today, having never been here before, and said to the public, I have a great idea. I'm going to get you off your couch with your friends and your family. I'm going to take you to a dark room. I'm going to close the doors behind you. You're going to sit in a chair. You're not going to know who's around you, and your feet are going to stick to the floor because of old Coca-Cola spills. I think you would never be able to sell that. I think we do movies now only because they're grandfathered in. Nobody would want to go to the movies if they hadn't been grandfathered in. People would love to watch TV at home, and I think that's what we're going back to, even when COVID's gone.
That makes me sad.
It
kind of makes me sad, because I do love, but and there is something to be said with what you said, because when I go to a movie theater, or used to, I would make it a point to go Saturday morning when no one was there.
Right. True. You don't want to deal with anybody else.
Yeah, because I don't want to deal with anyone.
But honestly, you bring up a great point, Barney. It's sort of, COVID has kind of accelerated almost, not necessarily the death, but certainly the rapid decline of the theater experience. And when you think about the technology that we now have, at home, we all have giant TVs and great sound, and you don't have to deal with the general public. I think there definitely is something to be said for enjoying a movie in the comfort of your home, though. Like, I recently went out to the movies because they opened.
You went to go see Tenet.
And I went to see Tenet, the Christopher Nolan movie, and that's a movie that I wouldn't want to see on the small screen first. It sort of deserves and kind of requires a big screen viewing, and I still feel like there's a place for that for some of those really big kind of movies.
Yeah, I think that's what it's going to wind up being. The theaters are going to be for big screen things that really benefit from having a big screen and have total immersion. The music, the sound in a movie theater is way louder than you would ever make your television.
Yeah, that's true. Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, and it's there is something to be said with that, because it's just, how many times do we overlook someone staring at their phone or like talking, and you're just like, I want to get the hell out of here. And I guess so. But then that
go back to your question.
Let's
go back to your question. It was a pertinent question.
No, for sure. Completely, and it ties into the movie theater, so perfect. What was that first screening like?
Oh, yeah. Now, do you mean the first screening? You mean the first screening of my own work?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I love them and I hate them. I love them and I hate them because you make so many choice. You make so many decisions in writing a screenplay, and then the director comes in and makes his decisions on top of your decisions, and then an actor makes his decisions on top of the director's decisions. So when you're watching it, you're always slipping deeper and deeper into your chair because some of these things are so much worse than what you had in mind, and even worse, some of these things are so much better than what you had in mind. And so it's very difficult to watch your own stuff. However, if you've got a friend or a wife or a girlfriend or any kind of person who you care about, bringing them to your screening is my second most favorite thing to do as a filmmaker. It's a wonderful thing when they call you up and they say, "Oh, this is Barney here at the thing, and Barney's a blah blah and a blah blah." It's just even here at on the bottom rung of showbiz, which I used to be, and still am in certain ways. But the other thing is, when you write a script, these days you're on a computer, but in those days you take 80 to 100 blank sheets of paper and you scribble on it and you type things. If those things are typed well enough, somebody spends $5, $8, $10 million to make it a movie, and so the first day of shooting, I like to arrive at about an hour before first call. I find the tallest trailer or truck in the production. I climb up on the top with a chair. I get myself a cup of coffee, and I watch this like little mini city of people streaming in on a job, not just a job, but the job that they want to do most in their life, make movies. And they're all coming because I took 100 sheets of paper and did this. That's the world's greatest feeling.
That just made me feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Tim's a comedian. I play music, so I write music too. So I get it. Like when you listen back to certain things, I feel like I could have sang something better or done something different. I'm sure you feel the same way.
100%.
Yeah. But yeah, okay. So I also wanted to ask you, because I'm a big Cannon Films fan. I'm sure all three of us are.
Yes.
And once again, Joe Zito supposedly talked to you about doing the script for Spider-Man with Michael Dudikoff.
I did the script for Spider-Man.
Okay.
That was an interesting thing. Joe hired me to do the script back in the days when they were actually talking about Tom Cruise.
Really?
I was a little bit more familiar with the Spider-Man thing than I was with the horror thing. But nevertheless, I read a bunch of Spider-Man comics. I didn't write the script from scratch. It was a rewrite of Ted Newsom and John Brancato's script. Newsom's a great guy, but Brancato was the one who went on to become a really big-time screenwriter. And the problem with it was when we got finished, they decided to low budget the movie. And it was okay. So we wrote X amount of $1 million out of it. I don't remember how much. And then they decided to do it for $2 million. So at that point, I looked at Joe and Joe said, "Let's get out of here." And, we anchored the project, as Variety used to say, and they hired Albert Pun to do it. The guy who had done Down Twisted, another sort of in-house Cannon Films guy. Yeah, I did the script and it didn't get made. If your next question is any of my script in the original Tobey Maguire movie? The answer is no, but a lot of it is in the second Tobey Maguire movie because my villain is Dr. Ock, and they used a lot of my Dr. Ock stuff.
That actually, up until Marvel really kind of upped the game with all of like the cinematic universe, to this day, even though the Spider-Man 2 with Doc Ock is one of the best comic book movies of all time. It's incredible, and that's a great villain because I think he's got a human side to him that doesn't always get captured in some of the other movies. Sorry, that was my nerd talking.
No. Well, I mean, I just, like growing up watching those Cannon movies, like it's so funny what the script turned into, which is, I guess, Gullin or one of them too was like, oh yeah, it's gonna be a man and he's gonna be half spider and he got bit by a spider. Like they had no idea.
No, that's a true story. That actually happened. What happened was Menachem Golan. I don't think he ever read the comic book. I just didn't know why he doesn't have like the spiders. And so we actually set up a lunch for him with Stan Lee. And Stan essentially said, look, you can do whatever you want with it. You bought it. He said, but you might think about why it became so popular. And then Menachem understood that, and we went back to the Peter Parker thing. You can't get it to do anything right. But yeah, he wanted Peter Parker to turn into, I don't know, like tarantula, stuff like that.
Amazing.
Oh, that's so great.
Just
like
amazing.
The unawareness.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen their documentary or the documentary on the film on the company, but it's fascinating. Just like how they would make a poster before they would make a movie just to get the financing and.
Oh yeah, I completely understood that because I had been a poster guy like 15 years before.
Yeah.
I completely got that. You usually get a B talent. And they make a poster, and the B talent, sits there and chats with the people who are coming in. And they raise the money off the poster. Sure.
Amazing.
To this day, I tell people who ask me to do a thing, I say, look, give me a second, and I make mental poster of the thing because if I can't figure out how to arrange the poster, the copy, and the art, I can't figure out the movie because I know when I have the poster. I have a single organizing principle for the movie or television series I want to write. So everything I've ever done, because of my starting out on Madison Avenue, is poster first. Even if I don't actually make the poster, I know what it is in my mind.
Yeah, that's interesting that informed your writing so much. Was there anything specific about your journalism foray that also informs kind of how you come at a script?
As a journalist, because I was a feature writer, New York Times, Sunday Magazine, Esquire, stuff like that. The important thing is to listen to the people that you're interviewing and be able to recreate them in print. So I get that organizing principle thing I just told you from advertising, but I get this sense of how different people speak and different speech patterns and different thought patterns through speech through journalism. I mean, it wasn't my plan. I wasn't saying I'm going to be a journalist so I can be a filmmaker. Sure. But you're always the sum total of what you've done before. And between the Madison Avenue movie poster guy and the New York Times Tell Me More guy, that informs my work today.
I read something, and I don't really know much about it, but it associated your name with a creep show Saturday morning thing. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes, that happened. Yes.
So what exactly? What was
in this business start and don't finish? That was just a question of I knew a guy. We liked each other. He had rights to Creep Show. It somehow morphed into a cartoon idea, and it just didn't go anywhere. A lot of things just don't go anywhere.
That's what I imagine. I know, like just recently, Shudder did a 2-episode thing where it was just like like a cartoon of Creep Show. Yeah. I think Greg Nicotero did one, and I forget who did the other. And it was pretty cool, So do you keep up?
I'm not opposed animation in any way. In fact, I wrote an episode of He-Man that leads off the He-Man Collector's Edition 10 disc episode. It's the one where Skeletor and He-Man team up. But I don't pursue it. I have to be asked. Somebody has to say, "Hey, I want to do this cartoon." That thing started. I believe the problem there, but I don't want to characterize the problem because this is the public consumption. But there was a problem between the rights holder and the animator, and I was just a writer.
Sure. Gotcha. Yep. Would you say probably aside from Friday the 13th, the Sabrina series was like the thing that you're known for the most? Yeah.
When I go to parties, I have to look somebody in the eye and say, and describe whether they say, This is Barney Cohen, Friday the 13th Final Chapter. This is Barney Cohen, Sabrina The Teenage Witch.
Who
One of the odd things
who doesn't love a talking cat?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's be honest.
By the way,
Is Melissa Joan Hart insufferable? She's insufferable, isn't she? She's got to be. Is Melissa Joan Hart insufferable? She's got to be.
No, she's a doll. I mean, I haven't seen Melissa in 10 years, but she was a doll then.
But I mean, that was a huge run. You know?
That was a hugely successful.
Yeah, that was
show.
a very successful show. Yeah.
You know, they even kind of, did they remake it or redo it on Netflix?
They did, yeah.
Recently.
Yeah.
So they paying you for that?
They should.
I'm involved only in original Sabrina. Things that can do, like the Chilling Adventures or whatever. I have no involvement in that because I didn't create Sabrina from a blank sheet of paper. It's an Archie Comics character.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm always fascinated by the whole, kind of creator process and how that feeds in financially. Forever Night, does that still sort of deliver at some point, financially, or does that still get played?
Yes. Forever Night is very good to me. Forever Night is an original piece.
Yeah.
Although a lot of people think it comes from a comic book, it doesn't. I actually have a project now, which is kind of a female-driven journalist version of Forever Night, where she's a crime reporter like Kolchak, that becomes a vampire in the pilot, and then uses her vampirism, her special attributes and skills to become a journalist on the dark side of the paranormal. So yeah, that's the gift that keeps on giving. That started out as a CBS TV movie with Rick Springfield, the rocker, and then became a television series. I'm the creator of that, and that's a clean sheet of paper. Anybody who does anything with that, I'm involved in.
Okay.
I prefer to go spin off this thing that I'm talking about now, and we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, what are you doing now? What you just said about the female vampire?
I did a movie called Guernica.
Okay.
It's a historical fiction movie about the bombing of Guernica, and with a fictional guy and gal. Guy is a journalist, and the gal is a propagandist. And it made a nice splash. And I told my writing partner, the Spaniard Carlos Clavijo, Clavijo, that doors are going to open now, and we're going to do a lot of these things. Well, the doors opened, and behind every door was somebody asking me for another teenage witch or vampire detective. So it's very hard to break out. But right at this moment, there are two people who look like they want to do something of mine with Carlos, based on La Nueve, which was a company of Spanish Civil War veterans who fought under de Gaulle for the Free French, and were actually the first group into Paris in World War II.
Really?
So we'll see. I think it's going to that one.
Are you a big history buff?
I'm a buff's a tough word. I guess so. But I've been a soldier, and I like to use what I know about life. So the idea of doing this group, and the idea of doing Guernica, basically a movie version of Picasso's painting, very appealing to me. So I'm knocking wood, crossing fingers that I get to do this. Otherwise, I'm back with the Teenage Witches and the Vampire Detectives. Not a bad place to be. The best thing to be doing in Hollywood is working, and I'm a working guy. So, sure. But we'll say, yeah.
Yeah, not a bad. And like you said in the beginning of the podcast, you said that you were big into war movies, and obviously war and journalism, definitely all that stuff. Just wrapping up here, just out of curiosity, back to the final chapter, were there any deleted things from the movie that you wrote that you felt I guess that you didn't want taken out, but maybe Joe took out, any deleted scenes that you wrote?
No. Most of that happened in the writing, not in the. I have to say that Joe Zito, I usually write something and Joe says, "Well, I don't like that. Take it out." But once I had the script locked, of all of the movies I've done, and it's not 100, but of all the movies I've done, the movie was the closest to the script that I've done. I mean, Joe fell in love with the script. He fought for every page. It rains almost all the way through Friday. There's no chapter. And this I thought was important, and Joe thought was important. It's a pain in the butt when you're producing because you need 5 changes for everybody. Because if you do a second take, they're already all wet, so you have to put them in new clothes and blow out their hair and everything. But there was an ickiness to the being enveloped in the rain that I wrote, that Joe backed and Joe fought for all the way. And so there's nothing really that didn't go into the movie that went into the screenplay. Everything that was cut out of the screenplay was cut out before it went to the camera.
Now let me ask you this: Did Joe subcontract you? Because there's a story out there, and I don't know, the validity of it, where the studio didn't know that Joe was giving you the notes from the studio and you were writing. And
okay, yes, okay. There's stories about this on Red Scorpion as well, the Dolph Lundgren movie.
Right. Oh, right.
I don't know any of that stuff. I really don't. I'm not being coy. I don't know any of that stuff. I know what you know. I know whatever I read.
Okay.
All I know with Joe is he invited me to a coffee shop on the Upper West Side, told me he wanted to do this movie, told me he loved the kids I wrote. We made a deal. We made a deal in the coffee shop.
And the rest is history.
Yeah. And that's all I know about that. On the Red Scorpion thing was a little more complicated, but still, I just know what I've been told. I'm a writer. I'm not in the belly of the beast.
Right. The other thing is bringing a family into play. I always thought was the most interesting take of Part 4, bringing a mother figure, somebody that was around, that was in a supervisory role. Was that something you guys discussed beforehand, or was that part of the template of what the story was that was given to you?
No, that's something I wanted to do.
Okay.
I think it was a brilliant choice, by the way, too.
It was a brilliant choice, for sure.
Because when you think about, the danger there, it's even more like the reality sets in that despite this compassionate mother figure, these kids are in mortal danger, and it makes it, to me, even scarier.
Well, I wanted to do something that was more emotional than the first 3, which is a bunch of kids screwing and then getting killed.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I guess just wrapping up here, I just wanted to ask, as a writer, is there something still out there that you feel like, any topic that you would like to write about?
Yeah, but yes, but it would take me another podcast to tell you all the crap I'm working on. Because, like I said, I'm a generalist. I have a rom-com I want to do. I have and also, by the way, I don't like. I don't usually tell people what I'm working on because it's like it becomes like a steam valve that lets off some of my steam and takes me away from the page.
Sure.
Like I feel like I've already told a really cool story rather than written a quote. So I keep all that under my hat. But I have at least a dozen things that I'm doing work on daily. And one of them is horror. There's a rom-com. There's a couple of historicals. There isn't a specific particular thing that I could say. This is my driving Miss Daisy, as the guy says in Get Shorty.
Sure.
I have 8 driving Miss Daisies, and I love them all.
Has there in the last few years, I always like to ask people if they've seen, what are some movies that you've really enjoyed in the last 5 or 10 years?
Wow. I think
Friday the 13th Part 5?
No. Danny Simon's a wonderful fella. What did I really like in the last few years? I don't know. I can't tell you that.
We'll save that for part 2.
I would have to think about it and then email you 5 titles.
We'll put it in the notes.
Can I just tell you? I have to say this. In the beginning of Part 4, you have written one of my favorite lines in a movie of all time, where she says to Axel, "You are the Super Bowl of self-abuse," and I think I say that at least 3 times a week. It's
I'm glad it
amazing.
wasn't something that some actor ad-libbed, because that happens to me a lot.
Oh, no.
Oh yeah. I was waiting for that too.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't write
No,
that.
there's absolutely no way that wasn't written. That's a brilliant line.
He's like, Corey Feldman wrote that.
It's a brilliant line.
Barney, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for sitting down, talking to us. Man, this is a treat. I can't wait to put it up for Friday the 13th. And I don't know.
How do I find it? I just write in whatever it is, the name of the thing.
Yeah, I sent you the last email I sent you had the link to everything that you would need to, if you click on that link, it'll bring you to, all the platforms where you could find us.
Yep, Spotify, Apple, Red River
Great.
Podcast.
All right, I got another call in 10 minutes, which hopefully is the start of pre-production on yet another teen thing, but that's all right.
Business is
And
business.
thanks for inviting me. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much, Barney.
Thank you so much, Barney.
Thank you, Barney.
Be well.
All right. Hello, Shirley.
God bless.
Bye.
Dark